my baby's first signs of autism, and I didn't know at the time.
And I was in denial about it for a long time.
And I remember even a doctor was holding him, and the doctor was like, oh no, there's no way he's autistic. Even with a child with an obvious diagnosis, we didn't know. We didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know. So Ezra, our son, has been diagnosed with level 3 autism. He's 9 years old now. But when he was first born, everything seemed just really normal. He was our 4th child, and we didn't expect anything different with him. It was a planned C-section. And I remember when we were in the hospital, it was very peaceful after he came. He did have a little jaundice, so he was in a bed with lights. And I was really stressed out about that, actually. Remember the lights? I was really stressed out because he was in a different room. And so Adam noticed.
I just went and got him, huh?
Yeah, you just did. Because I was like...
I got in trouble from that.
But isn't that a great husband? Just be like, I can tell that my wife, who just had a baby, by the way, is really stressed out that he was in the NICU. And he didn't... Like, to me, I was like, why does he need to be in the NICU? He can be on a bed with lights in my room. There was plenty of room. So you just went and like unplugged everything.
Unplugged it and brought him in.
And brought him in and plugged it in. And the nurses were just like...
You can't do that.
You're not supposed to do that. And he's like, well, watch me.
I just did it. Yeah.
That has nothing to do with autism as far as we know. But it was a very grand gesture because I remember laying there just being very happy that I was in the same room as my baby and he was with us. And because it was almost New Year's Eve, right? They had fireworks for Ezra's birthday. I just felt like this is a special baby, you know? We're having fireworks for his birthday, for his actual day of birth. And when we brought him home to our 3 older children who gave him so much attention, they each just wanted to hold him. You can see here, they're just like adoring him and giving him so much attention. He rarely made eye contact, even at 3 months. And I think that was one of the signs where I was like, oh, I wonder why he's not doing that. But I really didn't think autism at that time. He was only 3 months old. And so, you know, we're going to be really vulnerable in this video. We're going to share things that we didn't know, things that we didn't see. And just because, you know, we want to make a video like this because if it helps one person, then it's worth making. Just sharing that story.
Yeah, and don't be like me, who was totally in denial for the longest time, even when we'd seen lots of differences. And obviously we've had 3 kids before, right? So we kind of knew the game a little bit. But it was interesting how Ezra was actually just an amazing baby. Like,
You're so easy.
So easy.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like, this is the best baby ever.
I was like, our other 3 babies were hard, and this baby's like, he doesn't even cry.
Yeah, he was so awesome, like, as far as that goes. I mean, Holly would feed him, and he was happy. Like, as long as his tummy was full, like, he was happy, playful, smiling, you know, laughing, sleep through the night. Just wonderful, wonderful, easy baby.
And I remember when he would sleep through the night, I would wake up because I'd be worried. I'd be like, this is a newborn. This baby's, you know, like 3 or 4 months old. I'm like, really? He's sleeping through the night? And I'd go and check on him. So I was still like not getting very good sleep because I would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, how come the baby doesn't need to be fed? Like, well, maybe something's wrong. So I'd go check on him and he was fine. And sometimes he would even be awake, and that was very unusual. None of our other babies.
Be happy.
Yeah, he'd be awake and be content in his crib or in his bassinet, and I'm like, don't you need me? Like, don't newborns cry as soon as they wake up? I just thought that's what they did, but not Ezra, and I felt like Ezra really didn't seem to need me socially. He just wanted me to, you know, fix his problems, like if he needed a diaper change or if he was hungry. He also didn't feed on me. He did not like that, but he liked his bottle. And so he didn't really like being held either, except for when he was like really sleepy, then you could hold him and he'd cuddle with you when he was really sleepy. And I remember even a doctor was holding him and the doctor was like, oh no, there's no way he's autistic. And I was like, oh, okay. but obviously he was wrong. And so it's always good if you have any concerns at all, just to take that to your pediatrician. And even if they're like, I really don't think he's autistic, go get him assessed anyway, just to find out.
They will say that probably.
A lot of times MDs and pediatricians, they don't know because they don't have the experience. Yeah. Most, that's our experience. And so...
Same thing with our videos. So our videos, we're here to obviously spread the word and share our experience. But again, in order to get a diagnosis and really know, you've got to go to a pediatrician who can diagnose autism. So do that. We do have a free guide though that we wish we would have had to just kind of go through a list and see, if you're kind of wondering, right? And so you can grab that link in the description and get that free guide to check that out. Again, just something that we would have liked to have had, or I wish someone would have put in front of me and pushed it a little harder, when I was in denial for a long time. So
yeah, that guide is called 10 Most Common Signs of Autism.
So check that out in the description there.
I remember with his eyes, I was really worried about Ezra's eyes from the very beginning, like at 3 months old. He's super little newborn, but he wasn't giving me that eye contact regularly, and he also wasn't giving me that social smile. Even though, like Adam said, he was really happy, he wasn't smiling at me, seemingly not because I was smiling at him. He wasn't reacting to my smile. And so I thought for sure that he wasn't seeing well, and so we took him again and again to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor just kept saying okay, we did the test, his eyes are working great. And I remember sitting there very frustrated. Ezra was, I think he was 6 or 7 months old, so I remember he could kind of sit a little bit, and I remember thinking, why can't he look me in the eye then? And I asked the doctor that, and the doctor just looked at me and was like, all I can tell you is that his eyes are fine. And I remember thinking, I bet this doctor has an idea of why my 7-month-old can't look me in the eye, but he's an eye doctor, so he can't tell me. Legally, he could get in a lot of trouble if he said the word autism. And so but I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I really had no clue about autism at that time.
And that was, so you started, we took him first into that after 3 months?
We didn't take him at 3 months, but that was when I noticed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the other kids at 3 months, it was they were doing eye contact.
Yeah, it was like clockwork.
Clockwork, yeah.
3 months, that's when you got that social smile. And I looked forward to that because as a baby, they're really cute as a newborn, but they never say thank you in any way until about 3 months, and then they seem to notice you, and you can start building that social interaction and relationship at 3 months. And that's what I did with my 3 older kids, and so I thought number 4 would be the same, but it wasn't. He did not give me that eye contact. And even to try and get his attention, I remember the types of things he had to do, you had to do to get his attention.
Yeah, throw him up in the air.
Yeah.
Tickle.
You had to tickle him fairly hard.
Yeah.
And tickle his feet to try and get him to smile for the camera. There's actually a video here where we're tickling his feet, and you can't see, but that's why he's smiling right here, because we're tickling him. And so, I mean, he was a happy baby and content baby, but if we wanted interaction, we had to do that physical.
Yeah, and which I like to do anyways, more just roughhouse, more
Yeah, so that was natural for you to do. And one thing Ezra loved was his blue chair. He didn't really like to be held, and so we have a lot of video of him just bouncing in this blue chair, looking around, and a lot of times we will be running around, the kids will be busy doing things, but he won't really seem to notice, or at least he won't react to what's happening around him. And that was definitely a sign of autism. It's in his own little world in his blue chair and being very content with being in that blue chair. So we're going to mention a bunch of signs too, and we've already mentioned some. Please put down in the comments another sign that we haven't said, because you never know, what you might write might actually bless someone's life.
Go ahead and put in the comments. We read all the comments. If you do have questions about your kid, signs of autism, go ahead and put those down too. And we actually have a lot of people in our community that have autism, and they actually comment a lot as well. And so really appreciate them helping us out to even notice things about our kids and to give us advice and different things. We actually have an ASD club where we meet with parents and autistic individuals on a weekly basis, and we talk about these different things.
One thing that we noticed, and both of us noticed this, is that he was late on almost every milestone. And so with the little newborn, you expect them to hit those milestones of being able to grab something at a certain month, and at 6 months being able to sit up, and at 7-8 months being able to get themselves to sit up and roll around and start crawling, and 9 and 10 months then it's like, oh, I'm lifting myself up and walking at 12 months. Ezra was not that way. He was, you can see here, he's almost a year old and he's barely crawling, and this is only when he's highly motivated. So we're trying to take this marker, this water bottle, and kind of throw it a little bit just ahead of him to try and motivate him to crawl. And he's loving it. It's great. He is almost a year old and he's barely crawling. That was, a sign for him. And it was just something we did work on with him. It was something that we did get early intervention for him. We had physical therapy for him all the time to help him go upstairs and to learn how to walk. He did eventually learn how to walk when he was 18 months old. But it took him a long time to learn those things. It was just, he learns from repetitiveness. Just, he has to lots and lots of times, and then he learns. And he does progress. Even now he's progressing and doing great and learning how to communicate, even though he's nonverbal and stuff. But it still takes just so many times of doing something before it's actually natural for him to do on his own.
So another thing with Ezra, because he was an easy baby, it was also just easy to take him places. Like whenever we go anywhere in the car, is no big deal. Like I said, as long as he's full, throw him in the stroller, whatever, he's happy-go-lucky wherever we're going, whatever we're doing. That was different from all of our other kids who are different, levels of temperamental, I guess you'd say. And actually, at a year old, Simon, that's actually when we sold our house, moved into an RV, and went and visited all the national parks. Simon is also, on the autism spectrum, he has level 1 autism. And a lot of these signs and stuff we didn't see with Simon as early as we did with Ezra. It wasn't until later that we really started to, okay, maybe we should get him evaluated and stuff. And so on that RV trip, that's when we really started noticing those repetitive behaviors that Simon had, and eventually ended up getting him diagnosed. You can check out that video here, Simon's story about getting diagnosed with autism. And we constantly are doing videos like this, so make sure and subscribe if you haven't already, and we're so glad to have you part of this community.
Another thing that I noticed that was a little different than my 3 older kids was that Ezra loved shiny wrappers to the point where he was obsessed about them. Now, every baby loves things that crinkle in their hands and shiny wrappers. Every baby that I've ever watched or taken care of. But Ezra, the reason that this was different for him was that he, even at 1 year old, he didn't care what was inside the wrapper. He didn't care if it was a sweet, yummy treat or if it was a cracker or something.
He's still that way. Actually, Halloween, he'll open all of his candy, throw the candy away, just throw it to the side, and just love having the wrappers.
Yeah, that's very specific wrappers, the ones that are shiny.
Yeah, that's the awesome thing, is having the wrappers. The candy, whatever. If you put it in his mouth, he'll eat it, but it's but he's he loves the wrappers. And same thing right now, he's actually going through this phase where it's any chip bag, he wants us to take the chips, dump them out, and then just give him the bag. So we're at my parents' house, and he's
anywhere, at any time, he thinks that he deserves all of the chip bags in the entire world.
Yeah. And so, and my mom was being nice and we can put it in a different bag, right? So she'd get out a big Ziploc bag and dump the chips in the Ziploc
entire
bag
like Lay's bag
and give him
in his Ziploc bag so that he could have
the bag.
It's because grandma's nice like that,
And
you know.
tear it
That's
up.
what grandmas are supposed to. They're supposed to spoil their kids.
So now he comes here and he's wanting us to do the same thing.
Yeah,
with
we're
all
like,
of our-
no,
you don't get that.
But he loves those wrappers, and you can see here, even at a really young age, he's obsessed with those wrappers. Like, you can imagine if we were to take those wrappers away, he would start yelling and screaming. And he would be so obsessed with them that we actually made those wrappers and other wrappers that we knew he liked his Christmas and birthday presents. And I remember one time he got so excited, he unwrapped it. He got so excited that he like stopped breathing. He's like, and we're like, okay, breathe, child. And we gave him trash, like literally trash.
For his birthday.
Yeah.
You can see that video here.
When Ezra was about 18 months old, we had him finally on a waiting list to get assessed for autism. And I mean, we were going back and forth. I was like, some days I just knew he was autistic, and other days I wondered if I was right or not. And obviously, you know, not a doctor, and this is my first child who's possibly autistic, so I was very new at this. And I remember sitting down and just watching Ezra, and he was playing by himself. And Adam came and sat right next to me and was watching Ezra too. We were just kind of quiet. And I remember this is a very like life-changing moment. It was when everything shifted in our house as far as like our mindset. And Adam was like, Ezra's in his own little world, isn't he? And I was just like, yes. Like, you are getting out of this denial phase that you've been in for 18 months. And it was great because then we were able to talk about it. And I felt before that, anytime I brought up the idea that our son could be autistic, you just shut it down. Like, you don't want to listen to it.
Yeah. So don't be like me and be just open to learning, right? And open to knowing what's best for your kiddo. Because honestly, the diagnosis, I mean, if it turns out that your child is autistic, just gives you a lot more resources to help them, is what it does. You know, with the diagnosis, you can get more early intervention. You can get insurance to pay for a lot of therapies and different things once you have that diagnosis. So don't be like me. Be open to just finding out, right? Like, if they aren't, great. But if they are, then great too. You can still find out and get them the help that they need as soon as you can, because getting things going faster is so helpful. As you can see, we actually talked to Dr. Spenlove. He was actually on the team that developed the ADOS-2 test for autism. And you can see that video here where we talk about the advantages of early intervention and you know, finding things out early. So don't be like me. Don't try and push it off, because I didn't want to believe it, you know, and for a long time. But I did see, obviously, the signs that began to just pile up more. And obviously, Ezra was an extreme case. He's level 3 autism, and actually the lady who assessed him, because we actually got him assessed, we got kind of snuck in at 18 months and got special. It was supposed to be just kind of like a screening thing and not get a diagnosis for his autism. But and she even told Holly, like, before, she's like, yeah, you're not going to get a diagnosis today.
Yeah, she did not want to diagnose him because he was too young.
Too young at 18 months.
Yeah,
but,
and it was 21 months.
Oh, 21
yeah,
months.
He was on the waiting list at 18 months. And then
21 months.
And then he was technically 21 months old. But when we walked in there, she's like, you're not getting a diagnosis today. I was like, okay, it's fine. We just appreciate your professional opinion. That's what I said. It's what I always say to doctors. I appreciate your professional opinion. We walked in, then within like a half an hour, she's like, oh, that's autism. And that's autism. And she's like pointing to Ezra, and I was like, yeah, I think we're gonna get a diagnosis today. So he was an obvious diagnosis. She used those words, an obvious diagnosis. So even with a child with an obvious diagnosis, we didn't know. We didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know.
Just remember, obviously, we aren't the professionals that you eventually need to go to. to get that diagnosis and to really find out.
But if you're on the waiting list, you might as well get some answers.
Yep. We did the same thing, searching YouTube and,
Yeah.
found out, okay, yeah, maybe we should get diagnosis, get checked out. So make sure to check out 12 Signs of Autism in a Baby here and our playlist of Does My Child Have Autism? And remember, if you have an autistic child, you're in good company.